The active chemical in marijuana kills brain cancer cells. The study suggests that THC causes brain cancer cells to essentially eat themselves. In both studies with mice and humans, tumors exposed to the drug shrink. The study's authors say patients didn't suffer any toxic side effects, and the results could be used to develop new strategies for preventing tumor growth.
Strong evidence the active ingredient in marijuana may stop early cases of Alzheimer's disease. Researchers at the Scripps Institute found THC may prevent the progression of the disease by preserving levels of an important neurotransmitter that allows the brain to function. The discovery could lead to a more effective drug treatment for Alzheimer's, which is the leading cause of dementia among the elderly.
Here's a story you'll want to remember. Could marijuana really help with memory? A new study out of Ohio University is looking into that possibility. Scientists say that specific elements of marijuana can be good for the aging brain by reducing inflammation. They also say it could possibly even stimulate the formation of new brain cells. Inflammation of the brain is believed to contribute to memory impairment.
Hundreds of studies suggest cannabis oil specifically has potential.
Harvard University did a study where brain cancer was being cured by cannabis oil.
But there are roadblocks to continuing that study.
We can't use it on humans because basically the government has taken all the rights.
Study at Canada's University of Saskatchewan found that a synthetic chemical derived from marijuana actually makes new cells grow in rat brains, Mr. Capehart. After giving rats high doses of the chemical, researchers found a 40% increase in new brain cell formation. Drugs like alcohol and nicotine suppress the growth of new cells, but the study shows marijuana may actually be good for brain cell growth.
One of the 400 compounds in cannabis is about to be tested in human trials to see if it can delay the onset of memory loss. A plant so controversial for its mind-altering qualities is exciting experts about its possible clinical benefits.
Cannabis as it is, normally smoked, has mind-blowing properties, and there are compounds in there which has this hallucinogenic properties. However, some of the indications for Alzheimer's in a mouse model is just a single compound that's used from cannabis plant material which is extracted, and it can stop the memory loss. Now, if we take that single compound and apply it to humans in clinical trials, we could prove for those 400,000 Alzheimer patients whether it could be used for those.
Studies in mice have shown that the cannabis derivative called cannabidiol, which is not hallucinogenic, can prevent the progression to memory loss in Alzheimer's disease.
Hi there, this is Dr. Bob Melamede, and I'm glad to see that some people are questioning my comments regarding cannabis's ability to kill cancer cells. And references for all of this are publicly available. They were done by researchers all around the world, not myself. Through countless countries, countless researchers have been doing this kind of work. And it also happens to agree with historical uses of cannabis as cures for tumors, as they were called. So what I would advise you to do, the easiest way to get to some of this information, is go to PubMed. Do a Google search for PubMed. It's a National Institute of Health database, and punch in cannabinoids and cancer, and you will get hundreds of articles where you'll be able to see at least the abstracts for all of them. And that will at least convince you to the accuracy of the statements that I've made regarding cannabis's ability to kill cancer cells.
We now find that marijuana fights cancer, and they've known about it for nigh on 40 years, which means that if you think back to all the friends and family who've croaked from cancer, and think about these monsters in government who knew that marijuana showed promise in curing cancer, we have one of the biggest genocides, second biggest genocide next to usury, in the history to be talking about. Study finds no cancer-marijuana connection. By Marc Kaufman, Washington Post, staff writer, Friday, May 26, 2003. The largest study of its kind has unexpectedly concluded that smoking marijuana, even regularly and heavily, does not lead to lung cancer. The new findings were against our expectations, said Donald Tashkin of the University of California at Los Angeles, a pulmonologist who studied marijuana for 30 years. Tashkin's group had hypothesized that marijuana would raise the risk of cancer on the basis of earlier human studies, lab studies of animals, and the fact that marijuana users inhale more deeply and generally hold the smoke in their lungs longer than tobacco smokers, exposing them to the dangerous chemicals for a longer time. In addition, Tashkin said previous studies found that marijuana tar has 50% higher concentrations of chemicals linked to cancer than tobacco cigarette tar. While no association between marijuana smoking and cancer was found, the study findings did find a 20-fold increase in lung cancer among people who smoke 2 or more packs a day. He says, we hypothesized that there would be a positive association between marijuana use and lung cancer, and that the association would be more positive with heavier use. He said, what we found instead was no association at all, and even a suggestion of some protective effect against cancer. Federal health and drug enforcement officials have widely used Tashkin's previous work on marijuana to make the case that the drug is dangerous. Tashkin said that while he still believes it's potentially harmful, its cancer-causing effects appear to be of less concern than previously thought. Actually, no concern.
This is cancer. This is cannabis oil. This is cancer on cannabis oil. Any questions?
I'd have questions too if I was you. So here's my story. My name's Dave Triplett, and I cured my skin cancer using cannabis oil.
Several years ago, I had 2 lesions removed from the tip of my nose. In 2009, the lesions began to return in several places. I went to the doctor, and the doctor gave me a prescription for a cream. He told me to put the cream on my entire face and neck. He also told me to wait until after the holidays to use it because it may cause some redness. I did a Google search for cream and I realized it was chemotherapy. Next, I found some photojournals of people who have used the cream. The photos, as you can see, are quite alarming. After seeing the results of what the chemotherapy cream can do, I decided to look into alternatives. Recently, my friend Jennifer had sent me a video about Rick Simpson curing cancer with hemp oil. It was called Run from the Cure, so I decided to start there. After I watched Run from the Cure, I began to do some searches. I was really surprised at how much information was available. These are a few of the videos I found.
Breast cancer kills more than 41,000 American women every year. Researchers in the San Francisco lab are working to shrink that number, and they're doing it with an unusual weapon, marijuana.
It's not just THC. These trichomes contain CBD, another valuable chemical.
We're fascinated by this stuff.
And what we found is that this compound called cannabidiol was particularly effective at inhibiting aggressive breast cancer.
We discovered that despite my training in medicine and science, I had been brainwashed that this substance, marijuana, that in fact it's remarkably non-toxic. There's never been a death from it. And I went from there, and that started me on a long interest in researching this substance.
Marijuana may actually help reduce the risk of certain types of cancer. A new Brown University study found long-term pot users are 62% less likely to develop head and neck cancers. This includes cancers of the mouth, tongue, nose, sinus, throat, and lymph nodes.
Breast cancer, prostate cancer, pheochromocytoma, lymphoma, leukemia, skin cancer, a whole variety of cancers that in experimental situations, meaning in tissue culture or in animal models, you can in fact show that cannabinoids kill these cancers.
Into its bloodstream and was carried to its brain. There it met the cannabinoid receptor evolved so many millions of years earlier in the humble sea squirt. And it just so happened to fit, like a key in a lock.
Researchers suggest chemicals found in pot called cannabinoids
can have an anti-tumor effect.
People are quite excited about the ability of these cannabinoids to kill cancer cells.
After a few more searches and watching a few more videos, I decided it was time to get myself some cannabis oil. Because I live in California, I was able to go to one of the dispensaries to get some hemp oil. At the dispensaries, they refer to it as hash oil. It's also called honey oil and cannabis extract. Most people in California, such as myself, refer to it as hash oil. I used the oil for 3 to 4 weeks before I saw any results, and then the results were dramatic. Not only was the oil healing my nose, but it was bringing cancer to the surface that I didn't even know was there. Here are the pictures of my nose being healed with cannabis extract, or hash oil. As you saw, the cancer was pulled to the surface and healed. Pretty dramatic. In this side view, you can clearly see the cancer being pulled to the surface and healed. The greenish brown stuff you see is the oil. Once I realized that the hash oil had cured my cancer, I began to ask myself questions. Why hadn't my doctor heard about this? Why hadn't I heard about this before? If cannabis cures cancer, why would it be illegal? As I did more research, I began to realize it's about profit and politics.
But unless big pharmaceutical companies are behind these things, they may go nowhere, is that it?
Well, actually, Lloyd, I've had 2 other stories where drugs have shown great promise in the preclinical phase, and because they were orphan drugs and no one picked up, nobody could get the patent on it, they've gone nowhere. Drug companies won't be interested in funding studies for a drug that won't make them a profit.
This drug has great promise, so why aren't companies and institutions lining up to get behind it?
Because the drug isn't patented. If someone invests in researching it, they're not going to make a profit because anyone can make it. It costs, some say, about $100 million to get a new drug through all the phases of testing onto the market. So it will be interesting to see if this old drug actually gets a new chance at becoming an anti-cancer medication.
Typically get this eureka kind of feeling, and it's actually the most exciting thing scientists can get.
I'm not going to have time to go into the history and politics of cannabis. I'll save that for the next video. I can tell you that cannabis used to be a very, very common medication. It was available in many forms. Here's a few examples of antique cannabis medications. This is a homeopathic cannabis sativa bottle. These are some cannabis indica tablets. This is a cannabis indica cough syrup. This is a bottle of cannabis pills. This is a bottle of cannabis extract. This is another bottle of cannabis extract. This is Dr. James cannabis indica extract. This is a corn cure. Its main ingredients were cannabis indica. This medicine was taken away from us, and now people are needlessly dying. It's absolutely ridiculous that this harmless medication isn't available to cancer patients. I ask you to please do everything within your power to get the word out that cannabis, without a doubt, cures cancer. The National Cancer Institute, the American Cancer Society, and members of our government have known since 1975 that cannabis cures cancer. The 1975 report has resurfaced and is now available online. It has become clear to me that because of politics and money, a cancer cure has been kept from us and people are needlessly dying. If you've lost somebody from cancer, the chances are their life could have been saved if the oil was available to them. Please share this information with every doctor, researcher, and news outlet you can think of. All we want to do is heal ourselves.